Just a reminder, you can watch full episodes on my app or join me at joycemeyer.org. I'll see you soon. When Jesus fed the 5,000, he said, "Gather up the fragments that nothing be wasted." And they gathered up 12 baskets full, when actually he started with some couple of fish and a little bit of bread. And so the result was they ended up with more left over than what they even started with, because Jesus multiplied what they had. And he'll do that in our lives too. He'll multiply what we have if we're willing to do the right thing with what he gives us. And so we all have resources. We talked about time, we talked about money, and we started talking about energy. And I'm going to pick up kind of where I left off yesterday, because there's so many people in the world that are tired, they're worn out, and part of it is because they have wasted a lot of their energy on the front end of their life, and now they don't have the energy that they need. Sometimes the more you move, the more energy you have. And today, literally, things are so easy for us that we don't have to put out much effort. I mean, when I was a kid growing up, nobody went to a gym to exercise. People worked hard enough to get the exercise that they needed. But that's not necessarily the case today. You have to almost sometimes on purpose make sure that you get some movement in your body. You know, if you don't move, things will start to get stiff. I like one saying that I heard: the more you move, the more you can move. The less you move, the less you can move. And no matter what your age is, you are going to get older. I don't want to say old, but older. And you want to have energy left in the latter years of your life, so you don't just feel bad all the time. And I made mistakes. Thank God he's helped me to recover from some of the mistakes that I made in overworking and not exercising and not doing the right things. But I don't want you to make the mistakes that I made. So we all have a certain amount of energy. Some have more than others. But we need to manage that energy well. And like, for example, something that you might not think of, do you know that to get really mad takes a lot of energy? You stay mad for several hours and it just will wear you out. Worry is another thing that will just make you so tired. Wrong thinking, being judgmental, being critical, being negative, never being thankful for what you have. All those things they're not things that God approves of, and they do take energy. They wear you out, and the happier you are, the better you're going to feel. And we're not going to be happy if we don't follow the precepts of God. If we're doing things that he doesn't approve of, it's going to steal our energy, and we're not going to feel the way that we would like to feel. And I think a lot of people is like, why do I feel bad? Why do I feel bad? And they don't even think about things like worry or jealousy or greed or not getting enough exercise. And so we can pray for healing all we want to, but although God's desire is to heal us, he also wants us to do what we need to do to have good health. I frequently say now, I don't have the time or the energy to be upset. There's so many things that we get upset about that just are not worth being upset about. I look back at my life now and some of the things that I used to get so mad at Dave over, and I think now how ridiculous it was, because it really didn't amount to that much. Now in John 14:27, Jesus said, "My peace I leave with you. I give to you." He bequeathed it to us. It was like part of his inheritance. He said, "My own special peace I give you. Not as the world gives do I give you, but my peace I give you. And then the Amplified Bible says, so stop allowing yourselves to be upset and disturbed. Stop allowing yourselves to be fearful and intimidated. Well, that pretty much says it. Jesus said, I've given you peace. To be honest, you don't even have to pray for peace. You have peace on the inside of you. It's a gift from God. But we do have to make the decision to live in a way that that peace can be released. And so he says, stop being fearful, stop being upset, stop being worried and intimidated. All those negative emotions steal your energy. I just have a feeling that there are people watching today, you never thought of it like that. How many negative emotions do you allow in your life? How much of the time are you angry? How much of the time do you spend worrying? Do you get decent sleep at night? Even things like not drinking enough water can make you feel bad. There's a story, a true story, about David and his brothers and Goliath that I want to use as an example in this area. And it's in 1 Samuel 17, 23 through 30. And actually there was a giant named Goliath that was taunting the armies of Israel and threatening them. But not one of the soldiers in the army had the nerve to fight him. He frightened all of them. And David was a shepherd boy. He was young and he wasn't in the army. But his father sent him to the battle lines to take some food to his brothers and to see how the battle was going. And when David got there, it really bothered him that everybody was afraid of this Goliath instead of realizing how great their God was and that God would take care of them if they would step out in faith. And it says, now the Israelites had been saying, do you see how this man keeps coming out? He comes out to defy Israel. The king will give great wealth to the man who kills him. He will also give him his daughter in marriage and will exempt his family from taxes in Israel. So those were some pretty big blessings that they were being offered if anybody would just have the nerve and really the confidence in God to step out. You know, on our own, there's a lot of things we can't do. But with God on our side, there's nothing that we can't do if God wants us to do it. And so when David came to the battle line, it says he asked the men standing near, what is going to be done for the man who kills this Philistine and removes this disgrace from Israel? See, David thought it was an absolute disgrace that all the soldiers were standing around letting this giant taunt them. David had his faith in God, and he believed that God would give the man who stepped out the courage and the victory. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? You can hear David's faith right there. But Eliab, who was one of David's brothers, and I might just add that his brothers were jealous of him because he had been anointed to be king instead of one of them. And Eliab was David's oldest brother, and he would have surely thought that he should have had that anointing, not David, the youngest brother, who was just a shepherd. And when Eliab heard David speaking with the men, he burned with anger, and he said to him, why have you come down here, and with whom did you leave those few sheep in the wilderness? You know, he was trying to belittle David. With whom did you leave those few sheep, and who do you think that you are? And I just want to encourage you to realize that Satan will try to belittle you. He'll try to make you feel small. He'll try to make you feel incapable and unable. But God is on your side. And there are many things that I cannot do by myself, but I honestly believe that with God, putting my faith in Him, I can do whatever He asks me to do. I can't just do whatever I want to do, but I can do whatever He asks me to do. And I love to be with confident people who believe that they can do something, even if it's something they've never done before. And they'll step out boldly and at least give it a try. Why have you come down here, and with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? Now, this was an opportunity for David to get his feelings hurt, to get offended, to get angry, to get emotionally upset. And his brother went on to say, I know how conceited you are and how wicked your heart is. You only came down here to watch the battle. And David said, now what have I done? Which leads me to believe that he was accustomed to this kind of treatment. It wasn't anything new for him. Now what have I done? And David said, can't I even speak? And then he turned away from Eliab to someone else. I love that. He turned away from the offense. He turned away from all the stupid things that his brother was saying that could have upset him, because he wasn't going to waste his energy on negative emotions trying to argue with somebody that was behaving foolishly. Please get that. How many times do you let the devil use somebody to draw you into a foolish argument that you're not going to win? Because if people already have their mind made up about you, you're not going to change it. You don't even really need to try to defend yourself. You just need to trust God. And what we should do is just turn away and turn towards something more positive. He turned away to someone else, and he brought up the same matter, and the men answered him as before. Well, it turns out that David did kill Goliath, and I won't go on to tell you more of that story, but I just wanted to use that example of how Eliab was being used by the devil to try to belittle David, to get him upset, and he could have wasted his energies with those negative emotions and maybe not been able to win the battle. And he actually did win the battle, but in a very unique way. He killed this giant with a slingshot. And so surely we understand that God had to be directing that, or it would have never worked. And you know, I was the least likely person to succeed when God called me to do what I'm doing. But I'm telling you, no matter how little you feel like you have in the natural, if you'll be obedient to God, you will be amazed at what God can use you for and what He can allow you today. I want you to be encouraged today that you are stronger than you think you are. And don't get your head full of that thinking, I can't do this, I can't do that, I'm not this, I'm not that. Believe what God says about you, not what the enemy says about you, often through other people.
Want to hear more from Joyce on this topic? We've got you covered. Visit us in the Joyce Meyer app or at joycemeyer.org today.